Live on WFLA Now. This is Run for Fun with running enthusiast Leigh Spann.
All right, let's go. Welcome back to the Stream Center for this week's episode of Run for Fun at WFLA Now. Now, the show is designed to give you tips and tricks that not only make running and walking a part of your lifestyle, but that you really learn to enjoy it. I'm your host, Leigh Spann. I'm a meteorologist here at WFLA in Tampa, but I've also been running pretty consistently now for going on 13 years. And over those years, I've learned some of these tricks and tips and wish I had known them earlier when I started, because one of the things is that running slow is not only very good for you, it's also very necessary. And if someone had told me I could have run slow, I probably would have enjoyed it a whole lot more. And one of the people, of course, that taught me just about everything I know is Coach Maria, who is now in her Florida home office. Welcome back to the Sunshine State.
Oh, thank you so much. I'm so happy to be back. I've never been so happy because the sun is so awesome here.
So just to let everybody know, you normally, Maine is your happy place as well. You love to go back to
Yes.
Maine in the summer because it's usually really nice weather.
Yes.
This
But
year
we had a really rough summer. Still beautiful in Maine. It's always beautiful, but I'm a sunshine girl. I love the sunshine.
Well, we're glad to have you back, and the humidity will fully embrace you over the next couple of weeks.
Yes, I ran this morning and was reminded that, got to slow down.
Got to slow down and make it more enjoyable, and of course, then all of the electrolytes after it. So
Yeah.
this
How
week,
was your weekend?
it was really wonderful. We had our running group had our Christmas in July run on the Courtney Campbell Causeway. And so we got to give out presents, and we got to play Christmas carols, and we drank lots and lots and lots of Gatorade because it was very, very steamy. But yeah, and then after that, I went to go see the Barbie movie.
Yeah, and I was going to ask you about that because I know it's off topic, but I'm anti-Barbie, and I have been watching you guys go see it, and I've been like, no, I can't go. I don't believe in anything that Barbie stands for. And then my daughter asked me to go today, so I'm like, you got to give me some help, Leigh, because I am willing to change my mind if somebody can convince me. So ready, it's Leigh's minute.
Yes, it is. So thankfully, I didn't know about the movie's message prior to going in to see it, but it really is all about, not only empowering women, but sort of bringing down the patriarchy. So all the things that you hate about Barbie, the sort of the stereotypicalness of Barbie, they discuss that. They don't shy away from it. I mean, in fact, the Margot Robbie character is stereotypical Barbie. She's the one you think of when you think of Barbie. Yeah. But in their world, in Barbie land, they think that because they have been able to have all these careers, you see all the Barbies, the Barbie journalists, you have the Barbie Supreme Court justices. They think that, it's perfect in Barbie land. It must be perfect everywhere. We've changed everything. And so when Barbie goes to the real world and she's in, it is such a shock. So it lets you know that they're in on it too. They know that it didn't work, that what they were trying to do necessarily didn't work. And then you see kind of how that plays out as they find out what the real world is like.
All right. Okay. I'm going to bite the bullet just because Abby asked me and I'm going to do it, but I'm going to be reluctant, but I am always willing to change my mind.
And it is also, on top of the great message that it brings, it is also silly and pink. So there's enough silly and pink in there too that it is a Barbie movie after all. Some of the little quib lines are funny, but it is pink and it is silly, but in that they're able to push forward a message. So.
All right, Leigh, I'll let you know next week how it goes.
All right.
I'll do it.
Be strong. And speaking of being strong, this week's episode, you see at the bottom of your screen, is taking runners off the streets and trails and into the gym, because many runners, we love running. We don't necessarily always love going into the gym. And really, it goes the other way, too. There are people who really love going to the gym who don't understand how you could possibly ever love running, but they really can work together. So joining us this week is we have Melissa Trinidad, and she is not only a Tampa trainer, but she's also a runner. So she has a really good, unique perspective on this. Good morning, Melissa.
Good morning. Thank you so much for having me on. I think it's really interesting how you just mentioned a lot of runners don't strength train, and a lot of people who are into strength training don't run. But I am in that unique position where I love to do both. So thank you so much for having me on the show today.
Well, we're definitely looking forward to it. Yes. And just to let everyone know, Melissa did give me a training session. So, because I am one of those runners that the gym is not only terrifying, but I am confused when I go in there. I don't know how to do any of the things. And so she said, well, in order to, so you have questions, know what to ask, let me give you a training session. And I was telling her that I cursed her name for about a week because I was so sore, and it was my legs that were sore when I thought those would be the strong ones. So we were actually talking about this before. So why were my legs the ones that were sore?
Well, there's a saying that I always use when it comes to this conversation, and it's you're fit for what you train for. You've been a runner for 13 years and you've been using your body in that capacity, but you haven't incorporated strength training. Now, you come into the gym, and with our session, it was as if you were coming in for the very first time, a runner who's interested in strength training. So we started off with a baseline assessment to see what you can do. You were able to do a lot more with your legs than your upper body. So I think just the amount of volume that you did with your legs and using them in a different way elicited that response. But it goes back to you're fit for what you train for. So if you were to go out and do another type of physical challenge, it would probably make you sore as well. Yeah. But the more you do it, the less sore you'll become until maybe it's time to progress your program where you will experience another period of soreness, but then your body adapts. So
your muscles get stronger. Your muscles stop having that terrible reaction.
Yes, but I apologize for making you feel that way, but I also don't apologize because hopefully it encourages you to come back.
Well, so I would just full disclosure as well. She was doing like a baseline, like how well I could do at certain exercises. And she said, okay, now it's time for the push-up. And I immediately gave her the, and she was like, okay, it's fine. We'll just do an elevated one. Maria, any guesses as to how many elevated push-ups I can do? This is like you're on a bench with your arms like this.
I don't know. I mean, you haven't ever strength trained before, right?
No.
So I don't know, like 2 or 3?
One. We got one.
Okay, well, I mean, that's a start.
One is a start, and what I told her is that you will only get better.
It can only be better.
Yes, for sure.
It can only get better.
So you see in today's rundown, so we're going to talk about, how running and strength training can complement each other. So that one, and then, and also what kind of exercises specific to people who use mainly their legs and walking and running, like what kind of exercises to do. So let's just talk about a little bit about your backstory, Melissa. Like, how did you get into this?
Well, a little bit about my backstory. I have been a personal trainer for 21 years, which really blows my mind. And I've been operating my company, Optimal Health and Performance Training, now for the last 11 years. I've had a lifelong relationship with running. It's something that I've always incorporated into my life. As a young athlete, I incorporated running as part of my training and conditioning. But then as I became older and after the birth of my daughter, which was 21 years ago, I got back really into running because it was a way for me to incorporate exercise while having a young baby. I had a jogging stroller, and it was something I could just step out the front door and do. But I have a long history with running, whether it's 5Ks, 10Ks, half marathons. I also love doing obstacle course racing. That's really where the majority of my running is now. And in terms of my history with training people in running, I've worked with people who've done couch to 5Ks, so people who have very little to no experience running, to working with elite Ironman athletes. But in the end, as much as I love to compete with running, as you can see on the screen there, I have fun doing it. Not only have I run as a genie for the I Dream of Genie race in Cocoa Beach, I've run a variety of 5Ks and tutus and things like that. And I enjoy team events for running as well. So as passionate as I am about competing, I run for fun.
Yes, that's what we like. That's what we like to see. And so what got you into, just a passion for helping other people?
Athletics and physical activity is something that has been part of my life ever since I was a little girl. I mean, I started off in 4th and 5th grade as the only girl in the boys basketball league. And not only was I the only girl, I was the lead point guard. So just physical fitness has inherently been a part of my life. But as I've matured throughout my lifespan, I mean, to be totally transparent, I'm 45 years old.
And looking amazing,
Well,
as we know.
thank you so
Yes.
much. But physical activity, I once came from a very competitive place, but as I've evolved through my lifetime, physical activity is therapeutic for me. Not just for my body, but, you know, for my emotional well-being, how I handle stress and anxiety. After 20 minutes of physical activity, if I'm in a bad mood prior to that, I'm always in a better mood afterwards. So I want to share that with other people, and I want to teach them how that it's not a chore. You know, it's something that we are so lucky to be able to do. If we are able-bodied to move, it is a blessing, and it's something that we should celebrate. Fitness is a celebration of our bodies and what they can do. And I want to share that message with people versus exercise being a chore or a burden, because exercise is a celebration of life.
It really is. And that's, again, why we sort of started this show.
Yeah.
Because while we're focusing in necessarily on walking and running, if you dread it, you're not going to keep doing it anyway. It's not going to be a part of your lifestyle if you hate something. You're not going to eat broccoli every day if you hate it. Like, you should find another vegetable. But if you can figure out a way to eat the broccoli, run the race, pick up the weight, whatever that is, and it brings you joy.
Yeah.
That's even better. You get to continue to do it and lead this healthy lifestyle.
Definitely.
And you can actually train yourself to like broccoli too.
Yes. Well, if you put enough salt and butter on it, you are correct.
Salt and butter makes everything better. Right?
Yes. So Maria, you know, you've also been sort of in this exercise world. You were you know, aerobics and things like that. So talk about how, you know, other exercising works in tandem with running.
Yeah. So I've actually strength trained my whole life as well. Well, since I started running, which was when I was 19. So, yeah, and I strength train entirely actually for strength and for helping me keep the muscle that I have. Because the biggest problem with running is we run so much and we run tons of miles. And if you're not eating enough and recovering enough, a lot of times you end up losing some of that muscle from running too much. The other thing is, as we age, we lose muscle mass. So you can counteract that by strength training, and it becomes more and more important the older you get.
Yes.
So if you want to keep that metabolism going and you want to keep, you know, the muscle that you have, because that's like liquid gold to you, really. Like it keeps your metabolism super fast and strong. And it's the fountain of youth. Like, you can do more. Mm-hmm. We want to be like, you know, walking, running, climbing mountains when we're 80. We don't want to be sitting in a chair and not being able to do anything. So the more you take care of yourself with strength training now, and as long as you do it in a proper way, because a lot of people do it incorrectly. But if you have somebody like Melissa to help you, then it's you know, it can really add to your life. And that's what we want. Added life value.
Absolutely.
So Melissa, is there a type of exercise, like, again, the gym has always been a very intimidating place for me. I go straight for the treadmills and then kind of look, and while I'm there, I look and see what other people are doing. So what is something that a novice like me, strength trainer, what are some of the exercises I could be doing either at the gym or at home?
Well, Leigh, that is a very big question, especially it's very broad, but I can tell you the areas, and I will mention some specific exercises, but strength training when it comes to running can address stability, strength, power, mobility. You know, I just want to preface this conversation first off with saying that regardless if you're a runner or not, you should be strength training. And just as Maria pointed out, strength training is vital to attain and maintain optimal health throughout the course of our entire lifespan. And this becomes especially more true as we age. So regarding specific exercises for strength training, well, we could break it down into 3 different categories. And we're looking, first off, we'll just break it down with stability. Now, stability exercises are required to help, as you can imagine from the name, stabilize the body. When we run, the act of running produces a foot strike, and that foot strike produces force, which is being absorbed by your ankles, your knees, your hips, and your spine. Now, your muscles must contract and stabilize in order for a couple things not to happen. One, so you don't fall over, and two, you minimize your risk of injury. So a stabilization exercise could be something as simple as, instead of doing a squat on a firm surface, this is a very basic exercise, is that you would then stand on a mat and do your squat exercise, because by putting your body on top of a mat, you're on a softer surface, which creates a more unstable surface, so therefore your stabilization muscles have to fire off. Oftentimes when I'm working with a client doing stabilization exercises, I'm looking at how their ankles, are they stable? Are they wobbling? I'm looking at the knees. Are they going in and out? Are the hips in alignment? Is the spine pulling forward? Is it going back? So a very basic stabilization exercise could be something as simple as doing a squat, but doing it on a mat. And then eventually, perhaps we progress you enough that you're doing a kickstand supported squat where you have the majority of your body weight on one leg. And then the next progression to that could possibly be a single leg squat totally, where the other leg is off of the ground. So in regards to stabilization, that is one exercise, for example, that you could do. Now,
So we did that, you and I. That was one of the ones, right? I had
Yes.
a foot behind me.
okay, so
And
what,
we did a squat. What is that?
okay,
a split
so
squat?
that is a Bulgarian split squat, and that actually ties in. That is an exercise that I absolutely love, because not only does it address stability, it also addresses the next talking point I'd like to address, which is strength. Now, strength is the production of force to overcome a load. When you're running, that force that you're producing is to overcome the load, which is your body weight. It also could be overcoming not just your body weight, but perhaps a headwind
Yes.
or an incline. So now you're producing force to overcome these things. Now, for strength training, when you increase your strength, you're increasing your force production, which can make you a much more efficient runner. So the exercise that we performed was called a Bulgarian split squat, where you have one foot forward and you have the other leg elevated on a surface behind you. So in essence, you're really working one leg. What I love about that exercise is that it also addresses, which I have a lot of my runners do, or all of my runners do, this exercise, because it also addresses mobility. And mobility is your joint's ability to move freely through its range of motion. So as you're lowering your body into that squat, not only are you strengthening your glutes and your hamstrings, but you're also actively stretching the opposing muscle group at the same time, which is your quads and your hip flexors. So strength training not only helps you increase your force output, but it also can help improve your mobility, which is the way we move through our range of motion in our joints. Now, the final example I'd like to give to you is power. Now, power is the production of force to overcome a load, just like with strength, but in the shortest time possible. So speed is how quickly we move through things, just very generally.
Right.
And then power is the combination of strength and speed. So if you can produce more power output through power training, then you can eventually become a faster runner. So examples of power exercises would include things like box jumps, skipping exercises, bounding, so very explosive movements. And keep in mind, I want to tell you that not only for your lower body, we have stability, strength, and power exercises for upper and lower and core. Because when you run, you don't just isolate your legs. You're not running like this, right? You're using your upper body, you're rotating through the torso, you're engaging your abs. So yes, total body strength training for strength, stability, and power while addressing mobility is what I would recommend to answer your question.
No, I think, and so Maria, one of the things I think that runners do tend to, if without working on any sort of mobility, we can get those stiff joints, right?
Yes, for sure. And it's really important to work on mobility. And like Melissa said, I mean, when you're running at, 170 to 180 cadence, which is what you really should be running at, you are doing 170 to 180 one-legged squats a minute. So you better be good on one leg and you better be able to handle the strength and impact of that. There's also been a ton of new research out on the importance of the bounding and the power as we get older. And I can't tell you how many women
Yes.
are like, I can't do box jumps and I can't do jumps as I get older. And that's just not true. It's actually more important for you to do that so you don't lose it as you get older. So, you know, you don't have to jump a huge high box jump, but you do need to, you know, jump off the ground. It's important.
What is bound? Is that what you're saying? Like you bound
Bounding
on
is, leaping, skipping, bounding
Yeah.
forward, propelling yourself forward in an explosive manner.
Because as
And-
someone who's done yoga, I was thinking bind. Yeah, there's binds that
Yes,
you do, but
where
this is different. Bind is
very
bounding.
different.
Okay.
Yes, binding is very static and very, very challenging as well. But in regards to maintaining that power, especially as we age, I mean, let's just scale it back to something really basic in regards to as we become elderly. I mean, I see a lot of elderly people having issues just getting up out of a chair. You require power. That's a very, very basic example of a power movement as we progress in age. So I don't want people out there thinking that, oh, power is just jumping and leaping. And it is a lot of fun. But if we scale it back, power could be something as simply to generate enough force and speed to get up off of your chair, to get up off of get out of your bed. So it's really important that we maintain our strength and power and stability through the course of our lifetime.
And core strength, because that's what keeps you stable. You know, when we get older, we tend to have a lot of falls and stuff, and we can avoid that if we're strong. First of all, if we have enough muscle so that if we fall, it protects us. We also don't want to fall. So if we work on balance, it's really, really important to keep that balance and core stability.
And for form purposes, you can, some of the pain that runners feel, people feel when they start running, is maybe because their form is off. Does building your strength help you be able to protect your knees by having the right form, the joints in general?
Most certainly. I mean, most certainly. Like when I work with individual clients, when they come in, just as you did, Leigh, not only am I assessing your strength baseline, but I'm looking at the way you move. The way you move is an indication of muscle tightness and muscle weakness that's going on in your body. So as a trainer, after I take that first initial assessment and I look at those baseline measurements and then I look at your movement profile, then we pick exercises that benefit not only your strength but your mobility. So yes, strength training can definitely improve your mobility. So earlier I gave you that example of the split squat that you performed on our initial assessment and left you hurting for days, and I'm so sorry. But things like lunges, the running profile is that you're running forward. Running forward. There's no lateral, not a lot of lateral movement, not a lot of rotational movement, a lot of, the change of direction is very minimal. So when you're in the gym, you'll be training in all three planes of motion, because repetitive muscle pattern, whether it's running for years, 13 years for X amount of days every week, or repetitive muscle pattern of sitting at your desk 8 to 10 hours a day, will cause muscle tightness and distortion. Strength training can help strengthen the muscles that are weak, and through flexibility and mobility, stretch the muscles that need to be opened up. So most certainly strength training can help with mobility.
And speaking of that flexibility, is there, should you always be stretching? Are there correct stretches to do for runners and people who are at the gym, strength training?
Yes, most certainly. That flexibility profile is based on an individual basis, but I can say generally speaking, because most people sit throughout the day, and as you run too, you're tightening your hip flexors, right? So we know, generally speaking, we need to stretch the quads and the hip flexors, and then strengthen the glutes, the hamstrings, and the hips. And that's a pretty typical stretching profile for the general population. In regards to upper body stretching, I recommend stretching the front anterior portion of your body. So, as a runner, we're in this forward position here, right? Head forward, leaning forward, shoulders rolling forward. And then when you sit at your desk all day, you're hunched forward, rolled forward, intensely working away. as you should be, right?
Right.
And then
The boss says so.
even the things that we do at home, or we go to the movies, we're in this seated forward position. So once again, that profile of tightness in the front, and that would be alleviated through a stretching flexibility protocol for the posterior portion of your body.
And Maria, when you I was going to say, when you go through clients, are you seeing that improvement in their running if they start doing these small exercises?
It depends on how they do it, actually.
Yeah, okay,
and I'll talk about it more in the coach's minute. But a lot of times people just go in there and, kind of randomly do things and don't have the correct timing when they do it. And so then it can actually take away from their recovery, which actually can not work very well. So there are certain ways you have to do strength for you to improve, but if you are doing it correctly, it's very, very good for your running. And I think mostly in the power sense, like if you have stronger muscles, you have more power. So that's really important.
And so I guess both of you are recommending, if you go start that strength training, do it with someone who knows what they're doing. Either,
I mean,
yes.
I would absolutely love for you to come work with me. Yes. But in regards to just getting in there, just get in there. I mean, you're going to make mistakes. It's okay. The gym, despite what a lot of people think and feel, is a very welcoming place. I would rather see people in there trying than sitting at McDonald's. I'm more stoked about seeing someone who's out of shape and deconditioned in their gym trying and working hard. Sorry, I almost said a bad word. I would rather see someone in there trying and working hard and giving their effort, because I'm more likely to come over to that person and encourage them, and if they're open to it, give them a piece of advice. So don't let the thought of am I doing this wrong, stop you from coming, because when you go and you make it a habit, things will fall into place. People at the gym.
It doesn't have to be complicated. It doesn't have to be a complicated thing.
Strength training is not complicated. It really isn't.
Push-ups, planks, squats, one-legged squats. A lot of things are important. For runners, it's one-legged because we're on one leg so much. Like, you really want to be good on one leg and strong on one leg. And so you don't need to do complicated things in the gym. You don't have to be fancy.
No, it does not have to be fancy. I mean, when you come into the gym and you see exercises, all of these things are movement patterns. Now, the body has a set number of movement patterns, and we do these every single day throughout the course of our day without you even knowing, perhaps. But every time you stand up and sit down, you're squatting. Every time you walk, you're really lunging, because lunges are exaggerated walking in the gym. Every time you push a door open, guess what? You're pushing. Whenever you pull a cart, you're pulling. Whenever you twist to look around, you're rotating. So movement patterns are something that we do every single day, and you come into the gym and you do more of them, but you do it with a resistance, with a load. And of course, there's a recommended amount of reps and sets and all that, but all of that's based off of individual needs. But just to come in a basic way to start, if you've never done strength training before, regardless if you're a runner or not, start with 2 days a week and do total body. And that will be a good start.
And Maria, I was just about to ask, when you are someone who runs on a regular basis, how often should we be incorporating, and do you do running and strength training on the same day, or do you take a rest day, or how do you incorporate that with a pretty steady running regime?
Yeah. So if you're training for a marathon, I always recommend 2 20-minute sessions a week is fine. That's because if you're running a ton of miles, if you can't put too much load on your muscles, or you're going to end up getting hurt. So, but I do also like my runners to have an off season. And when they have an off season, that's when you bring the mileage down, and you can strength train 3 or 4 times a week. And that's when the magic happens, is when you have an off season and you can really, really push yourself in the gym and build that muscle. Because it's very hard to build muscle when you're marathon training. It's strength training is more to keep the muscle that you have when you're marathon training. But if you really want to build, do it in the off season when you're only running 20 to 30 miles a week, as opposed to 40 to 60 miles a week.
And if someone is more, just under that marathon, even if they're running half marathons and 10Ks and things like that, Could you go more often, or should you still keep it to that 2 days a week?
You can. I mean, a lot depends on like your age and how long you've been doing it. I myself can do at this point, I can do 3. If I'm marathon training, I can do 3 days a week because I've been doing it for 20 years. Um, I think you just the older you get, the more important recovery is. So you really need to make sure that you keep your rest days, or a lot of times, like I like my clients to do a track workout in the morning and then strength train their legs at night. So they're not, or if ideally you'd want to do a track workout and then go strength train your legs, because then you have a couple days of recovery before you have to, run again. Because when you're sore like that, it's very difficult to get your run workouts in.
And I think that's really interesting because I think the easy thought would be like, okay, I'm going to run hard one day and then I'm going to work hard. I'm going to go on do a very hard workout on another day, where you're saying if you could do them very close to each other, then you take a full, you have a longer rest time to get that going. So again, I think it's counterintuitive to think I'm going to do a hard run and I'm going to do a hard workout.
Yeah. But remember, we keep our hard days hard and our easy days easy. So ideally, in an ideal world, you would want to do your track workout and then go right to the gym, obviously eating something in between, and do your workout. Second best would be to do your run in the morning and then lift at night. Third best would be to do it within 24 hours. So you do your track workout, and then the next morning on Wednesday, Tuesday track workout, Wednesday lift, and then take a few days easy so you can absorb that. Because if you're not absorbing it, you're not going to get stronger. You're just breaking yourself down every day.
And so now I'll ask the kind of the flip side question to this, to Melissa. When you have someone who's training with you in the gym a lot, do you ever say, hey, go for a run on this day? Or do you ever bring them the other way?
Oh, yeah. I definitely, as a trainer, incorporate cardiovascular training into our programming. If people are runners and they want to incorporate that into strength, we look at the schedule. Like, I have some runners who are very passionate and are running a lot. So you have to be realistic about your expectations when it comes to strength training then. I mean, it will benefit you greatly, but it's going to take a course of time. But yes, definitely incorporating running is something that when people ask me what is the best form of cardio, I'm like, sprinting, running is definitely the best thing. But yes, it's definitely something that I program into my strength training programs for my clients. It's funny that you just mentioned, running while you have, running for an event. Like I have a race coming up, and actually today's my day 1 of my new run program that I'm kicking off.
I love that training program.
3-mile tempo run today, followed by a heavy lift tomorrow. So you're spot on, Maria.
Yeah. And then
there's
then an easy day.
Yeah, there's a lot that goes into it, but and I would say too, like it depends on what your goal is. If your goal is the run, you always want to do your run first. If your goal is to build strength, do your strength training first. So, I mean, and it depends on if you're a recreational runner, none of this really matters. Like if you just want to go run and burn calories, that's a totally different subject. So it depends on what season you're in. We talked about seasons a couple episodes back. It depends on what season you're in, what training cycle you're in, how you do it. And I think we get in trouble when we just like think this is the way I do things and I have to do things this way all the time. I'm a routine type A. And you're not constantly changing because your body adapts to everything you're doing. So the more you're changing, the better off you are in the long term.
And that's what Melissa said, that if I yes, I was very sore, but that's because I had never done that. And so if I continued to do it, then I would
eventually you would adapt, and then eventually then we would have to revamp your program, and then you would be sore probably again. So,
and I think Melissa would attest that like the more strength training you do, like the more consistent you are, you get like when you change your program, you definitely get a little sore, but it's never that first time soreness. Like it should be like this soreness where you feel your muscles and you know that you did something, but it's not the debilitating soreness that you get those first few weeks that you train.
I can't walk like the baby giraffe coming out.
I felt all of that. And so, because I guess that would be sort of leading into my next question is, if people are getting sore, what is your source of happiness for them, that it will get better.
Yeah, I mean that it will get better, and it's actually better to, like, in cases where you have this first time soreness, it's actually better to keep moving. And I'm not saying like go back into the gym and kill it, but go for a nice brisk walk. But actually movement will help alleviate soreness. And then, of course, hydrating is definitely a huge part of it, and getting ample amounts of restful sleep. And then just depending on where you are on the spectrum of how serious you are about your fitness, I at home have my own ice bath, so I take my recovery very seriously because, I'm constantly using my body, and I want to be able to constantly use my body throughout the course of my lifetime. So recovery is key in regards to stretching, keep moving, and then lots of hydration and restful sleep.
And making sure you're eating enough.
Oh,
like,
yes.
we talk about eating enough. Like the thing that I find is when runners add strength training, they forget that they just added another workout. So when you're adding another workout, your calories have to go up. So don't just say, I'm going to add this extra work and then you need to eat to recover. So be really careful about that. I have so many people that really struggle to eat enough.
And even eat on your rest days.
Oh,
yes,
certainly.
Because that's part of your recovery. That's one of the things. Sometimes you're not as hungry because you didn't go for that run or you didn't go to the gym, but your body is still working very hard to fix what you did at the gym or at that hard workout.
Yes.
Yeah, it's working the hardest on that day, actually.
And speaking of, I know, well, let me just ask this question, as it may sound very uninformed. People who go to gym, they drink like a pre-workout. Can you tell me what that is?
Pre-workout is supposed to, I don't do pre-workout. Okay. I don't believe in it. I don't feel like I need it. But pre-workout helps people, get amped up. There's a lot of caffeine. There could be a lot of things to help pump your blood, so that way you get a really nice pump. A lot of times people feel like they need that energy to go into the gym and just have a really intense workout. I personally don't do that. I personally feel that stuff's not good for you. Yeah. You look at the back of the can and you can't pronounce half the things, but there are natural things that you can do to give you that uplift right before you train. A really easy one is spearmint. Have a piece of spearmint gum. That will actually help open things up, open up your capillaries, help you take a nice deep breath and go into your workout. And then beet powder is another natural supplement that people use to help them with their pre-workout. But I firmly believe that even if you go into the gym or a workout or a run, do it for 10 minutes and then you're into it,
That is your pre-workout.
Yeah, the pre-workout, yeah. I mean, not to say that I haven't had pre-workout in the past, because I have, and that's why I know that personally it is not something that I want to do and I don't feel is good for you. But it elevates the heart rate. I felt like I had heart palpitations. It felt really jittery. It was not for me. And I don't recommend it.
I read something by a doctor the other day that was talking about the most important thing before strength training is actually to be hydrated. So he suggested water with salt in it, actually. I'd never heard that before. Have you ever heard that?
I mean, I have heard in regards to using salt on the race course for like the obstacle course, longer obstacle course races.
Just to keep you more hydrated.
Right, in regards to electrolyte supplementation, sodium is one of those things. So, but in regards to a tip for pre-workout, no, I have not heard that. Yes. But yeah, I definitely recommend, though, being hydrated as much as possible throughout the course of the day. My tip on that is that whenever you go to the bathroom, to know that you are being well hydrated, your urine should be clear.
Nearly clear, because I know that during the summer, I mean, I am adding, all the electrolyte drinks, and there's a new one now. They call it Element, and it's showing up all over my social media feeds, and it is a bunch of sodium, and that's basically because you're sweating all that salt out. You gotta get it back in.
I actually prefer my runners to be light yellow, because that means their electrolyte balance is not off.
Yeah, not completely clear, but light yellow to lightly clear.
Yes, but not dark.
Right, definitely not dark. Definitely not dark.
And it can happen even if you're not a runner and you're not an exerciser or anything like that. Yes. In the summer, in Florida or right now anywhere in the world,
Right.
just over the hottest July ever, is it's easy to get dehydrated just going and out doing errands, going to and from work and things like
it's
that.
actually really difficult to stay hydrated. It is actually it's like a daytime job to stay hydrated in Florida correctly.
Yeah. And all right, so I know I've told both of you guys that my only strength training in the past has been yoga. And do you consider that strength training, or is that more focused on the flexibility, or can it also be a part of strength training?
Let me just say that I love yoga. I do yoga. Yoga is definitely very beneficial in regards to, like you said, flexibility, core, and it is a form of resistance. You are using your own body weight in yoga to go into these various poses and holds. But over time, as with anything that you do the same way, your body adapts. So in regards to increasing your strength over time with yoga, I wouldn't say it is the most effective form, but I'm not dissing yoga in any way because I do love yoga. But in terms of strength training and becoming stronger, you need to increase the load that you're working against over time.
Yes,
and
definitely.
not only... And that over time, it will become harder and harder to do that. You'll reach a point where you're like, well, instead of maybe increasing my weight, we increase the amount of reps we do. But my advice in regards to strength training, and this is maybe getting a little bit deeper into it, is that whenever you're working within a set, you need to be reaching failure or proximal to failure, because those are the reps that are actually effective. So if I'm working within a 10 rep range, my last rep should be the last one I should be able to do, or I have one rep in reserve, meaning that at the end of the set, maybe I could do one more. But those are the effective reps. I think of those first 6 to 8 reps as my warm-up, and the real work is done at the end, where if you're not making the ugly face, then you're not working hard enough. That's just a joke. But yeah, you definitely need to be proximal to failure or at failure for your reps in the gym to be effective. And you can
I
only
have a
achieve
question
that through
about
strength
that.
training.
I have a question about that. So if you're doing 3 sets, should you feel that every single set you do, or should it
Yes.
just be on the 3rd set?
No, you
Okay.
should be feeling that in every single set, proximal to
Okay.
failure. Otherwise, then you've just done, 20 warm-up
warm-ups.
reps. Yeah, right, exactly. But
okay.
yeah, every single set, Maria, for sure.
Yes. Thank you.
Well, I felt that in some of our session, and I think you even called me out on one time. It's like, yep, that was the last one you could have done. Like,
yeah.
I did it. I think it was one of the arm exercises.
Yes, it was our body rows.
Yes.
But yeah, you were like there, and that was that was absolutely
Yep.
the last one you could do, and we want to try to achieve that with every single time. And I'm going to hold you to that the next time you come in to see me.
All right. Because so why is that one the one that matters? Because that the one that's breaking the muscles
Yeah,
down?
that's the one that's going to elicit change. That's the one that's going to progress you forward and give you those gains in strength. Because if it was easy, then everyone would be doing it, right? But no, we make those gains when things are challenging, and that's that point.
And Melissa, I want to thank you first of all for giving me the very painful experience, but I needed it because now I know that there is something I certainly need to work on, especially as I'm getting older. Yes. I know that this is something that I need to start paying attention to. So that's why I wanted to do a whole session, a whole episode on this. And I know, Maria, you focus on it as well. But what we also do in our show is Maria gets to have a whole minute where she gets to tell us whatever she wants.
Oh, great.
So, Melissa, so we're going to go into the coach's drill. Now, it's only 1 minute, so there will be a whistle that starts her and stops her. So so today's episode is on recovery.
Yes. So, I love the topic of strength training, and I'm so glad that we had Melissa today. But I would say that the most important thing, if you're going to add strength training to your runs, is that you work on your recovery. Recovery is so important because if you're not recovering properly, you're not going to build your muscles stronger. We cannot break down our muscles every single day and expect to get stronger. So many times I see runners just throwing in more. I got to do more work, and then under recovering. And also, you need to make sure you're sleeping enough and eating enough. I preach this all the time. Please eat to perform. If you want to get stronger, you have to eat, and you have to not be afraid to eat. You need more protein, you need good healthy fats, and you need some whole grains and decent carbohydrates so that you can work harder and that you can perform well and get stronger, because the goal is to get stronger, right? Recover.
That is the goal. And I think that both of you, would attest, or sort of to wrap this up, that you need someone to help you do some of these things. I mean, I know that,
Yes.
Maria, you taught me the tips and tricks, as I mentioned at the top of the show, that I wish I had known when I'd started and just ran out the door in a pair of tennis shoes. And so the same thing for strength training. If you're doing it wrong, it's actually, you're not doing anything. You might be hurting yourself. So, go in there with someone who knows what they're doing.
And a lot of times, like, I know, personal training, like and coaching, people are like, oh, it's so expensive right now for everything. So like, that's something that you feel like you can cut out of your budget. But the reality is, like, you can go and do one personal training session and have somebody show you a routine, and then do that routine for 4 to 6 weeks, and then go to a trainer again and have her revamp it. You don't have to have a personal trainer doing it with you every single time, but you can have somebody change the program for you and help you with the weights and come up with a more economical way to do it, so that you can get the benefits from it. Because it really is important to have correct form when you're doing it, so you don't get hurt.
Yeah, absolutely. And I look at that because it is an expense, but it's also an investment in your own health. And also, on the flip end of other side of it, if you don't address your health, if you don't address your strength and your well-being, then you're paying for medical bills on the other side of that. So invest in your health now, hire a trainer, come work with me if you'd like, and we'll help guide you to the proper way.
All right. Well, thank you both very much. Happy running,
Thank
happy
you,
strength
Melissa.
training, and good luck on your first day of your training program. She's doing one of the obstacle course races, correct?
Yes, in December.
Which one are you doing, Melissa?
I every year I do the Spartan Central Florida race. I race as an individual, and I also train a team to prepare for the 5K. So I'm really excited about that.
What does that entail? I'm really interested.
Well, the Spartan 5K, I do the longer distance, but the Spartan 5K is a 5K race with 20 obstacles. So the obstacles are, really challenging. There are lots of climbing elements, crawling elements, and carries. So it's a lot of fun. It's a lot of fun. And it's very...
I have yet to do one, but I have like a little itch for it lately.
Oh, I would love to have Coach Maria on my team. We'll have to talk afterwards, for sure.
Sounds good.
All right, everybody. We thank you so much for joining us for this episode of Run for Fun. Melissa, thank you for coming in. Maria, enjoying at your home office, and we'll see you back here in the studio next week. Bye, everybody.
All right, good to see you.